Number 11, and you're about to hear me rant a little bit on this one, and I know I've probably ranted plenty from 1 through 10, but this one is especially infuriating. So, number 11, no guy should be thinking or think or decide that he knows what is best for a girl. And I know that sometimes it's the other way around too, and that's also not okay. So I just want to explain something really quick. In a relationship, which I have been in one for a very long time, you do not dictate the other person's life. You do not take away their decisions. You do not treat them like they're inferior. You do not make them feel like they have no decisions in their life. It's not okay. It's not. I can make my own decisions just fine. I don't need my significant other to come in and decide what I'm going to write or when I should go to the store or any of that stuff. So please, authors, do not write this in a positive light. You may write this, and that is fine, but please do not put a positive spin on it because it's not okay. And women should not feel like that it's okay for men to do this, and the other way around. Men should not think it's okay for a woman to be able to come in and just take over his life and decide exactly what he's going to do and how he's going to do it, and he has no choice. It's not something that should be written. So, Wrimos, please back away from that storyline. It's not okay. Number 12, and kind of goes in with number 11, a guy and a girl should be equally badass and in different ways. So let's try to write our characters so they're not weaklings. And bless, that's how your character really is, but it's best that, you know, a guy and a girl should equally save each other in a book. I'm not going to rant on that anymore. Number 13, no paranormal explanations for easy plotting. That one, it explains itself. If you've written yourself into a plot hole, sit down and think about how you want to dig yourself out of it without using some easy paranormal explanation. Now, I've been tempted to do this in the past, but I have literally stepped away from my writing, taken several 100-mile trips just to clear my mind and figure out how the hell I'm going to dig myself out of this ridiculous plot hole that I put myself in. So let's try not to do the easy plotting by paranormal or fantasy explanations unless that's just part of your world and it was part of your world from the beginning. Not all of a sudden, oh, fantastic, this wonderful thing just happened to come to light and now I can fix all of my problems and the plot is saved, yay! And I know that's really tempting because you're not supposed to be editing during NaNoWriMo, but if you just skip it and move on and come back to it later, that's fine. But don't go the easy route because you're just making your reader feel stupid. And you already know how I feel about that. So, number 14. No beatings in every chapter or fatal injuries miraculously going away. I know that it's really fun to write your character just being beaten all the time and that they miraculously get over it, blah blah blah. And one of the worst culprits of this that I've read so far is Charlaine Harris. And don't get me wrong, I adore Charlaine Harris. She's a very sweet woman, and I love the way she writes. It's very southern and cute and adorable, but there's been some of her books where her character is literally beaten and beaten and beaten and then miraculously gets better with vampire blood or whatever the hell happens. I can't even remember. It's been so long since I've read any of her books. Anyways, so let's dumb down the beatings a little bit. Let's write it all the time. Alright, number 15. No stupid reasons for characters being together. That one is self-explanatory. Don't put your characters together. Don't make them date for stupid reasons. Like, they happen to be the only guy and girl on the planet, so they must date. Okay, I know that's a little out there, but you get what I'm saying. Number 16. Brooding for brooding's sake. Unless you're Angel from the Buffy series, brooding can only go so far. Number 17. If you're writing in a series, or even if you're writing a standalone novel, I think it's really important that you resolve your plotline in the single book. I know it's really tempting to write and write and write and then stop because you know you have another book that you can continue your story in, but it's really frustrating to a reader to not feel like the plot has been resolved at all. Though if you're writing in a series and you have a major plot line, that's one thing, but each book should have its own major plot line that should be solved in that book. So when you're writing series, make sure every single one of your books has a resolved plot line, which brings me to number 18, no major cliffhangers. I love my cliffhangers. I love to write my cliffhangers. However, I do make sure that my book's main plot has been resolved before I throw in that fun little cliffhanger. But if you've ever read some books where the main character, you literally don't even know if that character survives, or it doesn't even have to be the main character, a character survives. If the book literally stops right in the middle of the story and you have to wait another year before you finish that part of the storyline, that's a little ridiculous and something that you should try to avoid while writing during NaNoWriMo. Now, it's one thing to do at the end of a chapter, which is something that you should do, and I encourage it, but not at the end of a book. Just think about, for you Lord of the Rings fans, going between the first Lord of the Ring movie and the second Lord of the Ring movie and how it just stops. There's no resolve. And that's the same for between movie 2 and 3. And I know that it was meant to be that way, but it's literally, when those credits rolled for that first movie, I was like, oh my god, seriously? I have to wait another year for this? It's ridiculous. That's the same way I feel with books that do that, so let's try not to do that. Number 19. No falling in love or like for no reason. And I know that I have written this before, and I'm a culprit, but I'm not going to be that culprit anymore. Like I said earlier, I plan to grow as an author, and over time I've learned what's okay and what's not okay to write, and it especially helps by reading books by other authors, because then I can sit down and do a review and be like, well, what really pissed me off in this book, because I want to make sure I don't do that in mine, and this is kind of where that list came from. So don't have your characters fall in love just because you want them to fall in love. Make there be some story or reason, because that's what makes a book good. That's what makes relationships in books believable. It's what makes characters believable. And if it's unbelievable and they fall in love for no reason except for you want them to be together, then the story is going to fall flat, or at least your characters will. They just won't seem real. And I don't really have a number 20, and I wanted a 20 because then the number would be even. So my number 20 is going to be write. Authors, just get your butt, sit down at a computer, get a notebook, and go to the beach, take a recorder with you. Record yourself talking about your book. Write about your book in a notebook. Type on the computer. Do whatever it takes to get your story written down, because that's the only way it's going to get done. It's not, you cannot depend on being in a mood, feeling like it, deciding that you will only write when you're inspired, because that's not how it's like for authors who make a living at writing. Trust me, I know. Sometimes I have to sit my butt down at a computer and write something, and at the end of the day, I look at it and go, this is the most worthless crap I have ever written. However, the next day, maybe I'm feeling inspired and I can go back and fix, you know, that chapter or whatever I've written. So it sounds better, it looks better, and at least I have that down and my story written, even if it's not perfect, because first, second, 10th draft is never going to be perfect. It's that final draft that gets it. So, Wrimos, write. That is my advice to you. So, let's try not to do number 1 through 19. Alright? We're good? Alright, nanomites, go forth, write! Alright, nanomites, go forth and write your next book, because if you don't, then it won't get written. And that's just a fact. So, go forth, take my advice with you. Try to become a better writer. You will not always write something that people like, but at least you can try to learn from my mistakes, and hopefully your book will be a bestseller.